Why only dark chosen ones can enter the fifth dark dimension. We begin in a place that few dare to look beneath the surface of the spiritual world, where the light ends and something ancient and deeper begins. I'm not talking about the typical ideas of enlightenment, where love and light seem to solve everything. I'm talking about something more primal, more real, and more terrifyingly sacred. With the fifth dark dimension, it's not a place you can reach through casual meditation or by reading sacred texts. It's not found in temples or vision boards. It's not even found in the traditional sense it awakens within you when you've walked through enough fire to finally stop pretending. And here's the truth: only the dark chosen ones can enter, not because they're better, but because they've died 1,000 inner deaths and still said yes to the path. Now, understand this: when I say dark chosen ones, I don't mean evil, twisted or sinister beings. No, I mean the ones who have embraced their shadow, the ones who've walked through their own darkness and didn't try to run from it or purify it away. These are the people who have faced betrayal, loss, addiction, trauma, rage, shame, and didn't let it break them. Instead, they absorbed those experiences like sacred codes and allowed them to transform their essence. They didn't bypass pain, they became it. They harvested it. They learned its language. That's what makes them chosen. Not because someone anointed them, but because they answered a call that most people ignore.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The fifth dark dimension is not a myth or metaphor. It's a living, breathing frequency that exists just outside the reach of those who fear their own shadow. It's not something you stumble into. It's not accessed by chanting or fasting alone, but it's a dimension of raw spiritual truth that doesn't care about how enlightened you appear. It only responds to who you truly are beneath the masks. And the only way to enter it is to be stripped of everything false. You must become naked in spirit. You must confront every illusion about the world, about yourself, and about your soul's purpose. And that level of confrontation is not something most can endure. But the dark chosen ones, we were built for it. You see, we've been misunderstood. People think that darkness is something to avoid or escape. But in truth, darkness is the womb of all power. It's where the soul is forged. It's where the ancient codes of transformation are hidden. The fifth dark dimension is not dark because it's evil. It's dark because it's unfiltered. It's the place where no lies can survive. And that's why only those who have faced their own lies about identity, morality, even reality itself can pass through. That's why only the dark chosen ones can survive the crossing. Let me ask you something most would never dare to ask. What if your suffering was never a punishment? What if it was an initiation? What if the chaos you've endured wasn't random, but a sacred test, a forging process designed to prepare you for the wisdom of the fifth dark dimension? What if your tears were not stains but keys? Every breakdown, every failure, every heartbreak, it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to strip you, because you cannot carry illusions into the fifth dark dimension. They will be burned away instantly. And if your identity is built on those illusions, you'll be burned with them. That's why the path is so brutal, why it feels like we're being dismantled over and over again. Because only through that dismantling do we become ready. And the moment you're ready, the veil lifts, or dramatically, not with fireworks or angel choirs. It's subtle, almost imperceptible. But one day you're meditating, or walking in silence, or facing yet another inner collapse, and you feel it. And a shift, a pull, a presence. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff in complete stillness. And then it pulls you in, not with force, but with gravity. You fall inward, into yourself, into a space that feels older than time. That's the fifth dark dimension. It doesn't look like anything. It feels like everything. It's not a place, it's a state of being so raw, so honest, so vibrationally high and low at the same time that you can't fake your way through it. You either resonate with it or you don't. And that's why only the dark chosen ones make it. Because we've stopped faking. We've stopped pretending to be pure light. We've stopped looking for approval. We've stopped trying to be spiritual in the way the world expects. And in that surrender, we become dangerous, not to others but to illusion. We are the ones who can sit with disorder and not panic, who can walk into the shadow and not flinch, who can see the truth of this world and still love it anyway. That's not weakness. That's initiation. The fifth dark dimension is not something you seek with your mind. It's something you remember with your soul. And your soul will only remember once you've let your ego forget. Forget who you thought you were. Forget what you thought you needed. Forget the path you were told to walk. And in that forgetting, something ancient awakens, but something wild, something holy. That's when the door opens. That's when you realize it was never a door. It was you. The gravity of shadow, why pain is the portal to the fifth dark dimension. If you've ever wondered why your life seems to have broken you more than others, why your journey feels heavier, more intense, more emotionally volatile, there's a reason. It's not bad luck. It's not punishment. It's not because the universe has forgotten you. It's because pain is the portal. And only those who've walked through it repeatedly without shutting down, without turning bitter, without giving up can survive the gravity of the fifth dark dimension. Pain is not just an emotional state. It's a spiritual intelligence, a language, a gatekeeper, and it speaks in a frequency that only the soul can translate. When pain enters your life, it doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to strip you of what cannot survive in higher dimensions. It comes to burn away the masks, the egoic attachments, the stories you've inherited but never questioned. But it comes to test your willingness to be real. Because the fifth dark dimension doesn't respond to who you appear to be. It responds to who you are when there's nothing left to prove. This is the gravity of shadow. It pulls you inward. It bends your identity. It warps your plans. It shatters everything false. But in doing so, it reveals a clarity that nothing else can. And the dark chosen ones, we are the ones who didn't run from that gravity. We let it crush us. We let it break our illusions. We let it teach us, even when it hurt so badly we wanted to disappear. And that's why we carry the codes. That's why we're the ones who can enter. You see, the fifth dark dimension is alive. But it's not a place you visit, it's a consciousness you merge with. And it doesn't want your spiritual resume. It doesn't care how many books you've read, how many rituals you've performed, or how many crystals are on your altar. It wants to feel the depth of your being, the raw honesty of your soul. Your pain is the proof that you've lived, that you felt, that you've transcended without bypassing. Because true transcendence doesn't mean escaping suffering, it means alchemizing it. Let me ask you something. What if the worst things that ever happened to you weren't setbacks, but sacred initiations? What if the betrayal, the heartbreak, the abandonment, the failure, all of it was orchestrated by your higher self to prepare you? Because in the fifth dark dimension, you don't carry beliefs, you carry frequency. Pain is the fire that forges that frequency. You can't fake it, you can't shortcut it. You have to earn it. Think about the moments in your life that really changed you. Not the ones where everything went right, but the ones where everything fell apart. When you were lost, when you had no answers, when you were cracked open so deeply that something ancient began to speak through the silence. And that voice, that presence, that's the voice of your dark self. The part of you that was never afraid of the dark, and the part of you that is the dark. And that voice is your compass into the fifth dark dimension. But most people avoid this voice. They avoid their pain. They numb it. They rationalize it. They try to vibrate above it. But the dark chosen ones, we sit with it. We ask it questions. We let it move through our bones. We don't try to fix it, we feel it. And in doing so, we unlock something that cannot be taught. We awaken the frequencies that grant access to the most sacred dimension of all, the one where shadow and light are no longer enemies, but partners, where truth is not clean but complete. And here's the most mind-blowing part. Once you've entered the fifth dark dimension, you realize that pain was never the enemy. It was the bridge. It was the sacred architecture of transformation. It was the test and the teacher. And suddenly you stop avoiding it. You stop fearing the next collapse. You begin to trust the darkness, because now you know it's not trying to destroy you. It's chiseling you into something cosmic, something eternal, something dangerous to illusion. The gravity of shadow humbles you. It makes you soft in the right ways and unbreakable in others. And when you've surrendered enough, when you've stopped resisting, when you've let your darkness become your guide, you begin to feel the vibration of the fifth dark dimension moving through you. It doesn't roar. It hums. It pulses. It speaks in symbols, synchronicities, and dreams. It shows you timelines. It reveals hidden truths. It gives you access to universal intelligence, but only once it knows you won't use that power for ego. Only once it knows you've been purified by pain. So the next time you feel like you're being pulled into the dark again, don't panic. Don't resist. Don't ask, why me? Ask instead, what am I being prepared for? Because the pain isn't a punishment, it's a prophecy. One that is unfolding inside you, preparing you to carry a frequency that few will ever be able to hold. A frequency that bends reality, that heals without words, that awakens others simply by existing. The frequency of the forbidden, what dark chosen ones unlock inside the fifth dimension. Once pain has carved you open and silence has replaced your screams, you begin to hear something different. Not words, not thoughts, but a hum, a resonance, a strange, ancient frequency that doesn't come from outside of you, but from somewhere deep within your bones. This frequency is not loud, it's alive. It pulses through the marrow of the dark chosen ones like a code, a forgotten inheritance. And when you finally align with it, when your soul stops fighting and starts remembering, you unlock the forbidden truth of the fifth dark dimension. The power does not come from light alone, but it comes from integration. It comes from wholeness, and only those who have tasted every shade of their being have the bandwidth to hold it. The fifth dark dimension is not impressed by spiritual performance. It doesn't care how many lifetimes you've meditated through or how often you speak in mantras and metaphors. It responds to frequency, raw, unfiltered, vibrational truth. And the truth is this: most of the world is still trying to ascend by denying half of itself. But the dark chosen ones, we do the opposite. We descend consciously. We dive into the forbidden, into the grief, the lust, the rage, the chaos, and the shadows that others lock away. Not because we enjoy suffering, but because we understand that the forbidden is not evil. It's unclaimed power, and when you claim it not with ego, but with reverence, it becomes your gateway to the fifth. The truth is, what's forbidden in most spiritual systems is often what's most necessary for true evolution. Emotional intensity, erotic energy, chaotic intuition, unexplainable knowing. These are not distractions, they are sacred technologies. But they are feared because they can't be controlled. They can't be monetized. They can't be tamed. And that's exactly why the fifth dark dimension guards them. Because only those who have purified their intent through suffering can be trusted with power that bends reality. Think about it. Why do so many people who chase spiritual power end up lost in illusion? Because they try to skip the shadow. They try to earn light without honoring the dark. But the dark chosen ones, we know better. We know that each forbidden part of us is a key. Every repressed memory, every suppressed emotion, every rejected trait, it's all encoded with quantum access. And when we stop resisting those parts and instead bring them into ritual, into breath, into presence, that's when the frequency shifts. That's when the fifth dark dimension opens its gates and says, yes, you're ready. This realm doesn't speak in linear time. It doesn't operate on logic. It's a dimension of essence. And inside it, time bends. Space dissolves. You begin to feel the shape of truth rather than think about it. You communicate with symbols. You receive data through silence. You meet versions of yourself that exist in parallel timelines. You see the web of reality not as something outside of you, but as something you are co-weaving with every breath. But here's the part they don't tell you. This level of access comes with responsibility. Because once you unlock this frequency, you become a living transmitter. Your presence alone begins to affect the field. People feel you before you speak. Environments shift when you enter. The frequency of the forbidden doesn't stay inside you, it radiates. And that radiation either awakens others or agitates their shadows. You will trigger those who aren't ready. You will magnetize those who are. You will embody a paradox that breaks old systems simply by existing. And that's why the dark chosen ones are not just spiritual seekers. We are systems disruptors. We're not here to fit into the old paradigm of love and light. We're here to collapse it, to bring balance, and to remind the world that true awakening is not soft or sanitized, it's feral. It's wild. It's beautifully uncomfortable. Because only through that discomfort can the soul be reborn. And inside the fifth dark dimension, you don't just find yourself, you recode yourself. You rewrite your own design. You meet the primal architect within you, the one who's been waiting for you to stop pretending and start remembering. Let me ask you something dangerous. What if the parts of yourself you've been taught to hide are the very parts that hold your magic? What if your chaos is not a flaw but a language? What if your darkness is not a curse but a compass? Can you even begin to imagine what would happen if you stopped fearing your forbidden self and started listening to it? Because here's the ultimate truth. The fifth dark dimension doesn't want your perfection. It wants your permission to fully feel, to fully express, to fully claim every part of yourself without shame. And when you give that permission, you become a gateway for others. You become a bridge between realms. You become proof that power doesn't come from purity, it comes from presence. We are not here to save the world. We are here to become it. And the frequency we carry, the frequency of the forbidden, is the medicine the collective soul has been starving for. Not more rules, not more light, but more truth, more depth, more sacred darkness. That's what the fifth dark dimension holds. And that's what we, as dark chosen ones, are here to awaken. The final collapse, entering the fifth dark dimension and never returning the same. There comes a moment on this path where everything you thought you were begins to fall apart, not metaphorically, but viscerally. Your beliefs, your identity, your attachments, even your sense of time, it all starts to dissolve. And it's not a gentle unraveling, it's a collapse, a sacred implosion. The final collapse before entry. Because the fifth dark dimension cannot be entered by force, willpower, or knowledge. It can only be entered through surrender. And that surrender feels like death, because in many ways it is. Not the death of the body, but the death of the false self. The persona you built to survive in a world that never taught you how to be. That identity, the one based on survival, validation, control, that self cannot walk into the fifth dark dimension. It has no access to the codes. It cannot handle the raw truth that lives there. So it must die. And when it does, you will grieve deeply. You'll feel like you've lost everything, because you have everything that isn't truly you. But what comes after is something no words can fully capture. There is a silence, a vastness, a stillness so infinite it feels like touching the face of eternity. You realize you are not entering a place, you are merging with a frequency. A sentient, conscious realm that feels you before you even arrive. And if you've done the work, if you've died enough inside to become whole, this dimension welcomes you with open arms. Not as a guest, but as a remembered one. You don't return from this place unchanged. You don't come back with more information, you return with transmission. Your eyes carry a different light. Your words hold a subtler weight. You no longer argue or try to convince. You simply are. You become a tuning fork for others. A mirror that reflects not who they think they are, but who they've forgotten they could be. And that is the quiet revolution of the dark chosen ones. We don't lead through domination. We lead through resonance. But make no mistake, this path is not for everyone. It will cost you everything you thought you needed. It will isolate you. It will test your sanity. It will force you to walk away from comfort, from acceptance, from shallow forms of love. But what you gain in return is untouchable. Not just power, but clarity. The kind of clarity that sees through illusions in seconds. The kind of clarity that can collapse old timelines just by speaking truth. So many ask, what do I do once I enter the fifth dark dimension? And the answer is, you remember. You remember why you came here. You remember what you are. You remember that you were never meant to fit into this world, you were meant to recode it. Not through force, but through frequency. Through the vibration of your embodied truth, through your willingness to carry what others are too afraid to even look at. Let me leave you with this. If you feel like everything in your life is falling apart, if you feel like you're losing your mind, if you feel like no one understands you, it might not mean you're broken. It might mean you're being initiated. You're being prepared to walk through a doorway that few even know exists. And if you can trust that collapse, if you can choose presence over panic, you will not just survive it. You will transcend through it. Because the fifth dark dimension is not a reward. It's a reminder, a remembering of what we are beneath the noise, beneath the pain, beneath the programming. And only the dark chosen ones have the courage to face that remembering, to let it burn through them, and to still rise. Not as perfect beings, but as whole ones. And that is where the real power begins.